At first, this looks like one of the most innocent paintings in the world. A woman, a jug of milk, a quiet room touched by morning light. Nothing is happening, and yet you cannot look away. But near the floor, almost too small to notice, hidden among a row of painted tiles, there is a tiny figure with a bow, Cupid. And once you see him, the room stops feeling quite so innocent. This is Johannes Vermeer's The Milkmaid, painted somewhere around 1657 to 1660, now hanging in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. It is one of the most studied paintings in Western art, and it may also be one of the most quietly deceptive. Because the moment you notice that tiny god of desire crouching near a foot warmer, you start asking a very different question. Is this really a painting about purity? Or is it a painting about how easily we convince ourselves that something is pure right until the instant we look closer? Let's look at what is actually in front of us. A young woman stands in a bare, sunlit room. She wears a yellow bodice, a blue apron, sleeves rolled to reveal strong forearms. In her hands, a stoneware jug tips forward, and a pale, unbroken stream of milk falls into a bowl below. On the table, bread in several kinds, some crusty, some torn open, arranged almost like a still life of its own. A wicker basket, simple ceramic vessels. Behind her, a wall the color of old plaster, marked only by a nail hole and a faint shadow, as if Vermeer wanted nothing, absolutely nothing, to distract from her concentration. She is not looking at us. She is not performing for anyone. Her eyes are fixed entirely on the milk, on the small, ordinary miracle of liquid falling in a straight, unbroken line. And that, more than anything else, is what makes this painting feel sacred. Vermeer takes the least dramatic action imaginable, pouring milk, and treats it with the seriousness other painters reserved for saints and martyrs. We know very little about Vermeer the man. He worked slowly, painted rarely, lived in Delft, and left behind almost no letters, no diary, no explanation of what he meant by any of this. What we do have is the evidence of his eye. Room after room of women caught in private, unguarded moments, reading letters, playing music, pouring milk lit by a window that seems to come from some gentler version of the sun. Vermeer did not need to tell us what he intended. He built worlds so quiet that our own minds start filling in the silence. And that silence is exactly where this story begins. On the surface, nothing could be simpler. A servant performs a household task. This was an ordinary sight in 17th century Holland. Dairy work was considered honest, humble, almost virtuous labor. Contemporary viewers would have read this scene as a small hymn to domestic order, a well-run house, a diligent servant, a nation that prided itself on cleanliness and thrift. There is no drama, no gesture toward the viewer, no hint of story in the traditional sense. The room contains a table, a wall, a window, a woman, and time moving very slowly. Vermeer strips away almost everything a lesser painter would have included: no doorway to another room, no second figure, no clutter beyond what the scene requires. What remains is concentrated almost to the point of stillness. And that stillness is the trap. Because the less a painting tells you directly, the more your own mind starts to whisper. We are trained, especially by centuries of moralizing genre painting, to expect that a quiet domestic scene is hiding something, a secret, a temptation, a lesson. So even before we notice anything unusual, some part of us is already searching the shadows for a story that isn't strictly there on the surface. Vermeer gives us calm. We supply the suspicion ourselves, long before Cupid ever enters the frame. To understand how strange this is, we have to compare it to almost everything else being painted in Holland at the time. Dutch genre painters loved narrative mischief. A wink, a coin changing hands, a soldier leaning too close to a young woman, a painting on the wall commenting slyly on the scene below. Story was often the whole point, and morality lessons were baked directly into the composition. Vermeer refuses nearly all of it. Technical study of this very canvas shows that he originally painted a large laundry basket in the lower right corner, a mundane, cluttering detail, and then painted it out, replacing it with the small foot warmer we see today. He removed things. He simplified. He kept subtracting until only the essential remained: milk, bread, light, a woman's private focus. This is where the suspense actually lives, not in incident, but in restraint. The milk falls in total silence. The wall behind her holds nothing but a faint nail mark, as if something once hung there and was deliberately taken down. Even the light entering from the left window feels edited, arranged, held at exactly the right temperature to make her skin, the bread, the pewter all glow without ever becoming theatrical. Vermeer understood something most storytellers forget: that tension does not require action, it requires attention. By giving us a scene with almost nothing happening and asking us to watch it as if something is about to happen, he turns an ordinary chore into a held breath. And it is precisely because the room is this quiet that one small, almost hidden detail becomes impossible to ignore once you finally see it. Look at the skirting board, low on the wall, near the foot warmer resting by the woman's feet. Among the small Delft tiles decorating that strip of wall, conservators and art historians have long identified a tiny image of Cupid, drawing his bow. It is easy to miss. Many viewers stand in front of this painting for years of reproductions and never notice it at all. But once you know it's there, the room changes. Suddenly, this is not simply a wall. It is a wall that contains, quietly, a symbol of romantic and erotic longing, placed directly beside an object, the foot warmer that in Dutch art of this period could carry associations with bodily warmth, comfort, and, according to some scholars, arousal. Historians disagree on how strongly to read this. Some see it as a deliberate, playful signal that something is stirring beneath this maid's composed exterior. Others caution that a single decorative tile, common on many Delft interiors of the time, may simply be an ordinary household detail, not a hidden message at all. What we can say with more confidence is this: Vermeer chose to keep that tile visible after painting out the laundry basket that once sat near it. Whatever he intended, he did not remove Cupid. He let him stay small, easy to miss, waiting at floor level for a viewer patient enough or suspicious enough to look down. Once you notice Cupid, the other objects in the room begin to feel different too. The milk, poured so carefully, becomes not just food but nourishment, something intimate, something that sustains life, something historically and symbolically tied to fertility and the body. The bread on the table, torn and varied in texture, starts to read less like a still life and more like an invitation to appetite itself. Hunger, abundance, the pleasures of the flesh alongside the pleasures of the table. The foot warmer takes on new weight too. In several Dutch genre paintings of the era, this object, a small box holding a bowl of hot coals meant to warm the feet or legs beneath a woman's skirts, appears in scenes that art historians have connected with courtship, desire, or bodily comfort verging on the sensual. It is not proof of anything specific about this particular maid, but its presence, right beside a tile of the god of love, invites at least the possibility of a double meaning: warmth of the body, not only warmth against the Dutch cold. None of this proves what the maid is thinking, or what Vermeer intended her to represent. That uncertainty is, in a strange way, the entire point. The painting supplies the ingredients: milk, bread, warmth, Cupid, and lets the viewer's own imagination decide how far to take them. Some viewers will see a hardworking woman performing a chore with quiet dignity. Others will see coded desire hiding behind domestic respectability. Vermeer built a room honest enough to support both readings simultaneously, and he never tells us which one is correct. Here is where the painting stops being about the 17th century and starts being about something older and more uncomfortable. Maidservants in Dutch households occupied a strange social position. They were essential to domestic order, praised for diligence and cleanliness. But they were also, in popular imagination and popular art, frequently cast as figures of temptation. Countless prints and paintings from this period show servant girls being courted, seduced, or mocked for supposed loose morals, simply because of their low social rank and their physical closeness to the men of the household. Vermeer had every opportunity to paint that stereotype directly. He chose not to. His milkmaid is solid, sturdy, absorbed entirely in her task, her face angled away from us, offering no flirtation, no glance, no performance. If anything about this painting is sensual, it comes not from her behavior, but from the atmosphere around her, the tile, the warmer, the golden light. In other words, the painting may be less about what she is doing, and more about what centuries of viewers have wanted to imagine she is thinking. Vermeer gives her privacy. History gave her a reputation she may never have earned. And the tension between those two things is where the real story of this painting lives. And this is where the painting begins to change. This is the part that makes The Milkmaid feel less like a historical curiosity and more like a mirror. Because we still do this. We still look at women, at waitresses, cleaners, caregivers, strangers on the street, and quietly build stories around them that have nothing to do with who they actually are. We still confuse someone's beauty with their availability, their silence with consent, their labor with an invitation. We still turn ordinary people into symbols because it is easier than seeing them as simply, fully human, absorbed in their own private lives, owing us nothing. The real question a painting like this raises is not what the artist intended 400 years ago. It is why we, right now, are so quick to search a quiet scene for hidden desire in the first place. What does it say about us that a single small tile can shift how an entire painting feels? Not because the woman changed, but because our gaze did. So, maybe the real secret in this painting is not hidden in the tiles, or the foot warmer, or the bread. Maybe it is hidden in whoever is standing in front of the canvas, deciding what kind of woman this is, based on almost nothing at all. Vermeer gave her privacy, concentration, and an unbroken stream of milk falling in silence for 4 centuries. He never gave us her thoughts. He never told us what to feel. So the last question is this. When you look at her now, are you seeing what Vermeer actually painted? Or are you seeing what you brought into the room yourself?